Hello, my name is Jackson Kliewer, and this is the Tiger Hiline Online. We have some great stories to bring you today, including Daniel Mitchell's podcast on the internet, a rap group, Daniel's story on student fashion trends, Colby Coonratt's podcast on the Raptors vs. Warriors NBA Finals, and my podcast on Ukiyo-e art. Here is Daniel's story on the internet.
The 4-album Grammy-nominated band The Internet is based out of Los Angeles, California. It currently consists of vocalist Sid, keyboardist Matt Martians, bassist Patrick Page II, drummer Christopher Smith, and guitarist Steve Lacy. As they grow in music with their blended sound of R&B, hip-hop, jazz, funk, and electric dance, some of the members such as Sid, Matt Martians, and Steve Lacy chose to split off and make their own music while still being a part of their group, growing their own fan base. The group was formed by Sid and Matt Martians. They were both in the group Odd Future and met the members Patrick Page and Christopher Smith while on tour. The group's name started off as a joke by the rapper named Left Brain, saying that he's from the internet. Sid became amused by this thought and chose it for the group's name. Their debut album was released on December 20th, 2011. It was the first album to be released through Odd Future Records, and after this they were featured on the album Odd Future Volume 2. Their second album, named Feel Good, released in September 2013, was critically acclaimed and allowed the band to be able to tour with Mac Miller for his second album. Their third album was released by Odd Future and Columbia on June 30th, 2015. It was named Ego Death and got a lot of love through the music world. They got Grammy nominated for Best Urban Contemporary Album and were able to go on a world tour. 2 years later, Sid would go on to make her own studio album named Finn, which was loved by the R&B and hip-hop world. Now in the last 2 years, Matt Martians has released 2 projects that are both being critically acclaimed, and Steve Lacy dropped an EP and an album that is being extremely loved by fans around the world. Also, the group dropped a 4th album that would put them on the Billboard 100 Top 10s and send them on another world tour. The internet has inspired many, and we're looking out for the new music to come.
Here is Daniel's story on student fashion trends.
Fashion. It's been a major inspiration in our day and age all around the world, and even in our schools. With many different trends growing, I wanted to see what our fellow students thought about these new ideas and movements in fashion.
My name is Owen Osborne.
Joey Downing, Camden Duesenberg,
Max Bros, Alex Guo,
Tommy.
I'm Milo.
Tyler.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Ryan Hayes.
I'd have to go with golf. I would say golf as well.
CDG. Yeah, old people. Old people, nice.
Probably like Nike.
Vans. Let's say Adidas. Converse.
Nike. I'd have to go with a jacket. Probably a jacket.
Jacket. And also jacket.
Jacket.
Jacket. Hoodie. Hoodie.
Zippo. I like what Nike does with like Virgil, and they do some nice like different stuff, but also some of the stuff I really don't like. I would just have to go with Nike though.
I would say Nike because I wear them for athletic wear and also running and just casually.
Nike because they also own Converse, and that's a good brand of Nike.
Nike. Adidas.
Nike. Nike.
I like Nike because it's just generally available. Like, it's easy to go to the store and just go buy Nike. I think it'd be oversaturated though, like everybody trying to buy Supreme. Like,
It's not worth it.
It's overpriced, but some of it's cool.
What he said.
Supreme's trash.
Supreme. They do some pretty good stuff with like their like they've got some good stuff has like a lot of good art value, but then they also have some stuff that's really like oversaturated, and a lot of their like brand promotion for their clothes too. Like a lot of kids start off like the first thing that they do is Supreme, you know, so it kind of gets to the point where there's too many people that don't really know a whole lot about like streetwear, fashion, or just like that skate culture in general that kind of only care about Supreme, so it kind of gets oversaturated like that, I think.
Yeah, my take on it is like they've got some cool stuff. I'm just not a big fan of it. A lot of people, it's kind of like the first thing they want to get into when they first learn about streetwear. But I don't know, it's alright. They got cool stuff.
Yeah, they have nice stuff, but it's just getting to the run group, like Joey said. A lot of people are wearing it wrong.
About male rompers? I don't know, it's kind of weird.
You know, do what you want, I guess, but I wouldn't wear one.
Yeah, wear what you want, but I'll never be in one. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't wear a male romper. Yeah, I wouldn't wear that either.
Male rompers. I can't say that I'm a supporter, but I mean, you do you.
They cool. I wouldn't wear them.
I wouldn't wear them either. No, I wouldn't wear them. If worn right, like it can be a really nice fit, you know. But you know, if worn wrong, it could be pretty bad. I don't know. I like it. Nice, stay cozy, you know. Nice and loose, you know. Baggy stuff. It's good sometimes.
I like oversized clothes. It's just, again, one of those things, a lot of people are starting to do it, and it's kind of getting, as well, oversaturated. Like, everyone thinks, like, a cool outfit is just some, like, tight jeans and a big sweatshirt. It's not really fashion. It's just, like, I don't know, it's a whole outfit, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to a point of like with Supreme, it's just everyone's trying to do it and they're doing it right.
Size of clothing is more of a preference rather than I have a feeling over it. Like I don't mind it, but like because some people just wear it to cover themselves up, some people just wear it to be comfortable. So it's kind of a personal preference.
I think it looks. It depends on what you're wearing with it. Like I think if you're wearing like a oversized like sweater or like sweatshirt, I think that kind of looks good. But it kind of just depends on it.
Rock it.
If you could pull it off, do it. Probably pretty comfy, but I probably can't pull it off.
If it's 2007, maybe.
Some Soldier Boys.
Here is Colby's podcast on the NBA Finals.
Hi, I'm Colby Coonradt, and welcome back to The Hustle. Today, we're going to be making my predictions for the NBA Finals. With the series tied at 1-1, both teams have shown championship potential in these first two games. We have seen breakout performances from Pascal Siakam and returning DeMarcus Cousins. This series will drastically come down to two options. Will Kawhi Leonard be able to carry the Toronto Raptors to his first championship, or will KD's return ruin their chances? Kawhi Leonard is currently carrying the country of Canada on his back. Kawhi Leonard has averaged 37 points against the Warriors alone and averaged 27 in the regular season. This year, the Raptors were 2-0 against the Warriors, but soon-to-be Most Improved Player of the Year, Pascal Siakam, has been a great role player for the Raptors in the playoffs. Pascal scored 32 points on 82% shooting, but fell short to just 12 points on the second matchup. The Raptors right now should be looking to put down high percentage shots this next game. The Raptors' poor shooting has costed them so far this series. The Warriors are sitting pretty right now. They have the next two games in Oakland, and their superstar averaging 30 plus points in the playoffs, returning Kevin Durant. The 3-point barrage of the Warriors will give Raptors a run for their money. The Warriors have found some trouble from the 3-point line though. The 3-point percentage has been low, but the All-Star squad still puts up numbers. Steph and Klay Thompson have averaged 30 plus points in the playoffs, and a familiar face, Draymond Green, has really made a big impact. Draymond plays a role like a point forward, but from the center position. Draymond averaged 7.3 rebounds and led the team in assists over Curry with 6.9 assists per game. With all this in consideration, it's time to make a prediction. With the next 2 games in the Bay, the Raptors will have a tough time with the Cali fans. The Raptors defense will prevail in the Bay though in Game 4, which will tie the series at 2-2. The most important detail that the Raptors have is the 58-57 wins. This gives them home court advantage for games 5 and 7. So with that being said, Raptors win Game 7, 98-94, giving them their first NBA championship. I'm Colby Coonradt, and thank you for visiting The Hustle.
Here is my podcast on Ukiyo-e art. Japan was at the turn of a new era. The Battle of Sekigahara, fought between 160,000 men, led to the overthrowing of past rule and the commencement of the Edo period, with Tokugawa Ieyasu becoming the shogun, or military dictator. In this society's caste system, samurai were seen as one of the highest groups, while the merchants the lowest. However, with a shift to a more urban Japan, the Edo period caused a massive increase in wealth of the merchant class, and a new interest in buying relatable depictions of everyday life and sensuality in art, like those seen in the Heian period. The Hikone screen is commonly viewed as the first work of ukiyo-e art, made in the 1620s and depicting a scene of normal people conversing. The first major school of ukiyo-e is Renpa, which utilized a minimalist style to depict nature, something not focused on again until 2 centuries later. The lack of a human subject would become influential to later Japanese artists. With Korin and Sotatsu, Renpa's founders, the school would last into the 18th century. Moranobu began the trend of focusing on sexuality in art, often making overt scenes of sensual encounters in order to satisfy the growing number of merchant consumers. Sukenebu continued this before being subject to a government ban. Choshin, shying away from controversial works, was still popular with the merchants through his serene depictions of ordinary life. Masanobu impressed Japan with his detailed, colorful images of intricate settings. As woodblock color printing increased, minds like Suzuki used it for further realism and expressing a romantic view of Japan. Shunsho with his students utilized color for emphasis in their portraits of kabuki actors, while Toyoharu made sprawling landscapes that played with perspective. The peak of popularity in ukiyo-e came at a time of economic and social distress for Japan. Under the Kansei reforms, agriculture was promoted while urbanization shunned. During the reign of Emperor Kokaku, mass bans were placed on art that promoted urban ideals such as eroticism. In response, artists such as Tori Kiyanaga with his school of art produced uncontroversial, realist images. Otamaro took a less real and more romantic perspective of women in his prints, exaggerating beautiful aspects of their faces. He was also daringly political. Shiraku depicted kabuki actors with engaging facial expressions to show one's personality. No one knows his real identity, as, due to overwhelming hatred for his work, he only made prints for less than a year before completely disappearing. Otamaro and Shiraku combined are now seen as producing the greatest work from the Golden Age. Entering into the 19th century, the intricacy and boundaries of ukiyo-e art were pushed to incredible degrees. Artists like the mad painter Hokusai, his contemporary Hiroshige, and the younger Kuniyoshi personified the progression of Japan leading into its modern era. However, under the politician Tadakuni's new tempo reforms, further restrictions were placed on creative expression, once again in combat with eroticism and other symbols of the merchant lifestyle, like depictions of kabuki actors. Because of this, artists turned to landscape scenes and flora and fauna as the subject of their new prints. Possibly the most famous Japanese artist of all time, Hokusai led this era of culture with extreme popularity. Most famous for his Great Wave off Kanagawa, one part of his series 36 Views of Mount Fuji, it demonstrates his common theme of nature's superiority to man in a structured, realist style. Hiroshige was more poetic in his techniques, creating beautiful scenes of idealized nature, but maintaining a strong realism throughout his romantic work. Dynamic subjects such as the weather or movement of animals particularly fascinated him and led to a strong sense of fluidity. Kuniyoshi, one of the last great minds of ukiyo-e, was known for his light-hearted nature and expressive style. His triptychs of Japanese mythological scenes were amazingly atmospheric, but the prints that rose him to fame were his series of famous samurai. He would ultimately satirize these in his later works. Not one to be tied down by the seriousness which dictated most Japanese culture, he often was playful and humorous in his art. Cats would lie around his studio as he worked due to his love for them. Another example of his humor was his satire and parody of the government, which got him in trouble numerous times. Kunisato was from the same school of art as Kuniyoshi, the Utagawa school, but far more successful. Prolific to an inconceivable degree, he produced a humongous body of work which followed and paved many trends that the Japanese public adored. Japan in the Edo period was strictly isolated, only allowing Dutch merchant ships to be their sole connection to the outer world. When one of these ships first brought with it the camera, the public want of ukiyo-e began to decrease. The end of the Edo period came with the resignation of the last shogun due to the failure of those before him, as Emperor Meiji became complete leader of Japan. In the Meiji era, urbanization, industrialization, and an opening of relations with Europe were all heavily promoted and led to economic prosperity, but also bloody automated warfare. Ukiyo-e ultimately carried on mostly through journalism, as the public no longer wanted what was seen as art of the past. The prints that did continue to be made were often violent and shocking, reflective of the modern era's increased destruction through European invention. It was here that the last true great ukiyo-e artist lived, Yoshitoshi, a mentally troubled genius who attempted unsuccessfully to fight the chaos of Japan's modernity. In the last years of his life, he completed his beautiful series 100 Aspects of the Moon. It contained prints of legend and history in a futile fight to hinder the fall of ukiyo-e to a new age of technology. Most ukiyo-e art was actually a product of 4 minds in collaboration: the hanmoto or publisher, the eshi or artist, the horishi or carver, and the surishi or printer. While the artist was the most recognized, all 4 were essential. The hanmoto often chose the subject of a print and would then pass off the idea, regularly based on popular trends, to the eshi, who would design an image. The design could range from nature to shunga, which was a form of Japanese art that focused heavily on eroticism. The horishi would then plaster the design onto a wood block and carve it, resulting in a reusable mold for the art. At this point, the print is ready to be made, and the surishi uses variations of paint to transfer the carved image onto a piece of paper to be sold by the hanmoto, sometimes in book form with other prints. In this form of art, many prints of the same work can be made, leading to a mass market that so heavily promoted ukiyo-e with merchants. After the Edo period fell, the art of ukiyo-e masters was now able to spread across Europe. Japanism, the phenomenon of Europe's newfound interest in Japanese culture, heavily influenced Western art. Manet, Whistler, and the Impressionists closely studied minds like Hokusai, while Vincent van Gogh painted his own version of his favorite Hiroshige prints. Moving on into modernism, Western painters like Gustav Klimt, Henri Matisse, and many others demonstrated the importance ukiyo-e had on their development in their art. Of course, the most amount of influence it provided was in the culture of Japan itself. Hokusai's manga, collections of sketches, comics, and rough drafts, was published by the artist to make extra money, but had a profound impact on the development of Eastern pop culture. Manga is still used to describe drawing-based fiction in Japan today, while all of ukiyo-e has led directly to the popular entertainment source of anime, with Hayao Miyazaki especially taking large inspiration from those past artists. Literally meaning pictures of the floating world, ukiyo-e captured through its art the rapid changes within a small, isolated nation as it quickly approached a new era. Documenting history just as much as creating art, these minds have cemented their place in the legacy of humanity. Well, that's all for this year. We hope you will enjoy the summer. Make sure to tune in next year when we bring you more stories from the heart of Iowa.